Today I'm going to talk to you about what most people call classical music. It's actually not just classical music. It's split into three different groups: Baroque, classical, and romantic. Baroque, which came first, was really grand and elaborate, and was really rich with melodies and harmonies and big orchestrations. It made opera, sonata, and concertos actual genres, among other things. Famous composers from this time include Bach and Vivaldi. Classical music is characterized as simpler and clearer than Baroque music. It came only a few years later, honestly, if we're talking about the grand scale of music. And although it was less complex than its predecessor, it varied more, having different tones, melodies, rhythm, and dynamics all throughout in one piece. And it was pretty cool. I mean, Mozart, Bach, and before them, actually, my favorite composer, Haydn. They were probably the three most famous composers of all time, and definitely the three most famous composers of the classical era. During the classical era, the harpsichord was replaced by the piano, woodwinds became their own section, and instrumental music was instrumental to music. Basically, it established string quartets, trios, overtures, symphonies as the main kind of music. And even though it seemed to vary a lot within an individual piece, it was some of the most structured and organized and rigid composition of music, if you will, that there ever had been. Romantic music, this era, was part of a movement called, wait for it, Romanticism, that placed importance on nature legends, particularly those of chivalry, the mystical, the magical, the infinite, personal identity, nationality, as in national identity, feeling pride in your nation, and so I guess nationalism, and subjectivism, extreme subjectivism, and discontent with convention. So they were kind of like musical anarchists in a way, and artistic anarchists for the artists. Famous composers of this era include Chopin, Brahms, Tchaikovsky, and Puccini, who, if you don't know, wrote the opera La Bohème, which is what Rent, the musical or rock opera, is based upon. Anyway, before, concerts were usually paid for by the patrons of the composers. So the audiences are really small and limited, and full of rich people who had had some music lessons. Now, these composers wrote for music to be heard. They wanted everybody, regardless. There was no class in music for them. They played for the masses. They played in concerts, public concerts, and in festivals, which really brought music to be like an all-encompassing culture. So why do people still listen to classical music? I mean, it's been overshadowed so much by modern music. Obviously, it's been years since we've had real classical pieces published and written and published and popularized. The thing about classical music is that it's strong. It has every piece represents human emotion, in my opinion. And you feel that. You go to a symphony and you are swept into a world where nothing else matters, but everybody, you could be sitting next to a person who doesn't even speak the same language as you, and they are getting maybe something slightly different, and of course their own personal interpretation of the music, but you are all getting the music and you're all understanding what it's trying to say. Classical music can hold its own in a world where music is changing every single day. And honestly, that's what's so great. And classical music is really an amazing demonstration of what genius, imagination, and emotion can do.